Change has never simply been an event in my life. It has been a rhythm, sometimes steady, sometimes disruptive, but always present. My father served in the Navy, and when a parent serves, the family serves alongside them. Our lives were folded into timelines, orders, departures, and arrivals. Home was not a permanent address. It was wherever we unpacked the boxes. Childhood meant learning to say goodbye with grace. It meant understanding that friendships could be deep even if they were brief. It meant realizing early that stability is something you build within yourself, because the ground beneath you may not stay the same for long. When my father left the military, one might imagine the movement would end. It did not. His continued government work still meant relocation. New opportunities still required transition. And though I never enlisted, though I once considered it, that cadence of movement followed me into adulthood. Young adulthood brought movement. Motherhood brought movement. Growth brought movement. Healing brought movement. Necessity, more than anything, brought movement. Sometimes I moved because I had to learn how to walk on my own. Sometimes I moved because staying was not safe. Sometimes I moved to step away from abuse. Sometimes I moved to outrun poverty. Sometimes I moved because life pushed so firmly that standing still was no longer an option. And yes, sometimes I moved out of plain old stubbornness. The quiet insistence that there had to be something better on the other side of the door. I have crossed countries. I have crossed states. I have rebuilt my life more times than I can easily count. And yet, this recent move, 20 whole minutes away, proved to be the most challenging of them all. The irony is almost comical. Truck reservations canceled, movers rescheduled, refunds delayed, repairs unfinished, fumes that needed to clear, miscommunications with leasing, miscommunications with utilities, boxes that arrived late, supplies that didn't arrive at all, work hours missed, overtime forfeited, patience stretched thin. At one point I thought, surely this short drive has required more coordination than an international relocation. And still, in the middle of it, I knew it would work out. There were blessings woven through the frustration. I could not bring my washer and dryer. I thought I had hoped to. I really had hoped to. Even though the new place already had a set, I wanted mine installed there. Leasing would not remove theirs and put mine in its place. And while I understood the extra steps it would have required, it still stung in the moment. Instead, they went to someone who did not simply want them, they truly needed them. And what began as disappointment became something softer. In the middle of my own stress, I was able to look into someone else's circumstance and see that they, too, were carrying a heavy load. I was not happy for their burden, but I was grateful to lighten a portion of it, and giving what I could not keep. There was a quiet exchange, frustration leaving, purpose entering. It became a reminder that even when things do not unfold the way I intend, there can still be grace tucked inside the inconvenience. Move-in day finally arrived. Keys delayed. Mailbox key missing. Carpets freshly cleaned and completely soaked. So we waited, because sometimes waiting is simply part of the process. Eventually the forest dried. The truck was unloaded. The boxes crossed the threshold. A small but meaningful stillness settled in. Everything was flowing. I was back at work. I was at peace. And then my phone rang. The school. Now, let's be clear. This had nothing to do with the move. Nothing to do with switching schools. My son walked into that building confident. There were familiar faces there. He knew people. He was not anxious. He was not withdrawn. In fact, he had had the time of his life. He simply decided on day one to introduce them to a certain side of himself. A little too much alpha. A little too much proving. A little too much performance. And yes, it resulted in consequences. He came home as if it were an ordinary afternoon. Parenting sure keeps you humble. We are addressing it. We are correcting it. We are guiding it. But it was not rooted in fear or sadness or resistance to change. It was simply a young man testing his strength in the wrong way on the wrong day. And through all of it, the movers, the delays, the school calls, I am at peace. That may be the most surprising part of this entire story. I have moved across oceans and across this nation. I have faced far greater distances and far heavier circumstances. And never did I imagine that a 20-minute move would test me more than those monumental transitions. Life does not measure difficulty by mileage. But here we are, settled, working, breathing, unpacking not just boxes, but a new season. Perhaps this will be one of the last moves for a while. Perhaps not. Life has its own plans, and I have learned not to argue with every turn. I roll with the punches. I gather what matters. I rebuild when necessary, and I go wherever life leads me, with faith, with resilience, and with just enough laughter to carry me through.